peeps. Welcome to Heart Talks. Today is my returning guest, Sheena-Gaye Rogasch. And, she, from the very first show, I knew we had a million things to talk about. And on our first show, we started and just skimmed over the top of Atlantis. And I would really love to get your take on the days of Atlantis. Welcome to Heart Talks.
Oh, thank you, Sheila, and hello to everybody from Australia. It's very hot here today, so yes, it's been an amazing day. And I also got the guidance during the week that we needed to share some information about Atlantis, and I love the synchronicity and how your spirit and my spirit work together. I'd love to share the angelic perceptions and the knowledge that I bring to the planet and that I've learnt this life and my existing knowledge as well. So I'll begin at the beginning is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
With Atlantis, and as I say to everybody, please only take into your heart what feels right for you, because there's many planes of existence, there's many realms, there's many experiences. Our consciousness has the ability to incarnate across multi-dimensions simultaneously. But in Atlantis, the Atlantis that I know, being from the angelic realm and as an angelic representative incarnate, the Atlantis that I understand was a heavenly realm, an original place where all the planning was done for future incarnations that our consciousness would take, not just in this dimension, but in many dimensions as we evolved and grew and grow. It's an eternal evolution. Now, the Atlantis that I understand is held by an enormous angelic being that mankind may not have knowing of or understanding of, and I call this being a plethora. If you imagine a giant space station, an angelic metaphysical space station where you can exist within this being, and they're colossus beings, they're not anything that you can quite get your head around, but there was a TV show called Farscape, that the ship was a living ship. So it's very much like this. It's a consciousness or a being that can create a space for you to exist in. And so they're called a plethora. So the original Atlantis, all the other Atlantises are based on the original Atlantis. Within the original Atlantises, there were councils set up who were like governing bodies who would represent many different beings from many different realms across the cosmos. And there were councils of 13, councils of 7, there were music councils, there were colour councils, very much like human Olympic organising committee before the Olympics are on. Everyone has to come together, and so much organisation goes into it.
Yeah.
So from this original Atlantis that was created, the other Atlantises, plural, were based on the original. And so many people have different memories of Atlantis, and the reason why is it may not necessarily be the same one. So in Atlantis, and we call it, the angelic realm always call it Project Atlantis. When it's activated, an enormous being is first sent to the dimension that's going to be created, and that's where everybody is held. The time frame for the Atlantis for this realm or this planet was unmeasurable. I had 3 metaphysical incarnations at that particular Atlantis for this dimension over time and space. So the planning was so long and intense, and there's a thing called the divine plan, because there's 2 plans for this dimension. There's the divine plan, or what we call God's plan, and God is whatever you conceive it to be.
Right.
In your consciousness. If you conceive God to be God, the central sun, the goddess, Allah, Buddha, the universe, however you can conceive that highest consciousness to be, it's your way of perceiving it. So there's God's plan for the greater good for humanity. But because we were given the gift of free will when we incarnate into this dimension, there's also mankind's plan. And mankind chooses how they wish to have this experience. So there's two parallel plans and they run simultaneously together. So this is why the angelic realm do not intervene unless they are asked, because mankind has free will. It's a very simple thing. Yeah. So when we reincarnate and come from the higher realms, we basically have to rebirth ourselves into denser vibrations and denser vibrations and denser vibrations. So it's quite fascinating. Now, when the decision was made that we would finally start incarnating in this dimension, our very first incarnations were in metaphysical form. And mankind started their journey in Central Asia and then spread out across exploring the planets. They tell me that the dinosaurs were for fun and were an experiment. I just had to throw that little bit in. I think the boys were having a bit of fun with the dinosaurs. Yeah. So it's quite amazing. I know my very first incarnation in metaphysical form, I remember travelling down across Asia to across the sea to Africa, and I was exploring the planet. So it's quite a fascinating thing. When you say
metaphysical form, do you mean just like a light?
A denser form than spirit, but not as dense as the physical.
Right.
Because we were travelling within our spiritual template. Then we started the birthing process where you would be born into the physical body. So in those very early times when the planet was young, and it's an extraordinary dimension, this dimension. Yes, it was quite amazing. When that project is completed, Atlantis, then that being is then what we call decommissioned and sent to another part of the cosmos. Now, the being that I understood that held the Atlantis for this dimension hovered above the Atlantic Ocean. Now, whether or not later on mankind built physical representations of what they understood as Atlantis, I do not know this. There were many, many temples. I watched the earth for many centuries. I know that a lot of people have a memory that may have been incarnated in Pompeii, and they have memory of that earthquake and that destruction. I think it was 79 AD.
Oh, yes. I remember that.
Yes. Yes, and so they think that was Atlantis because Pompeii was so beautiful. And so there's overlays, there's overlaps. The Atlantis that I understood when the decision was made that we would start incarnating, a lot of people have a sense of they fell from grace. How I perceive and understand that to be is we came into denser form because we started to incarnate into the physical. So within their emotional memory, it might have felt like they fell, but it was planned that this is what it would be for, so that they could experience a physical form. So you could experience emotion, you could experience taste and touch. Now, does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, thank you. Now, the original Atlantis, the main governing body there was the Council of 13. I always worked with the Council of 7, which are the beings that in this dimension you will know them as the 7 archangels who hold the 7 healing rays. Now, I also work with Sanandra, and I always worked on divine law. You and I know each other also from the Temple of Sound, from the Temple of Orlin. We'd hang out there occasionally, but we worked on divine laws, and then the Council of 13 were in charge of the main. They were like the main governing body, and there were representatives on there. Now, it was a lot of fun. As I said, it took eons. Because decisions needed to be made on how you would do the journey. Both Sananda, Buddha, and Jesus, both the higher self and Jesus, were both at Atlantis, and I'll explain that, because the being that we know as Jesus also incarnates in other dimensions as well, across the board. Yeah, he's an aspect or a master within himself, and his highest self is called Sananda. So they can exist both simultaneously and separately at the same time.
Right, right.
Yes. Is that a hard one?
Yes, absolutely. I understand that perfectly. Yeah. Just as we do.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, yes. Many layers to the onions. I call it the onion layers. Each layer can exist by itself, but it's also part of the onion. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah. So it's very, very exciting. There's also an Atlantis for the elven realms, for the dragon realms, for the crystalline realms, for so many realms that our mind does not even perhaps perceive. Whether or not we're incarnating in this dense physical form, there's other realms that our consciousness will travel to and incarnate into. And it's the spiritual template that allows our consciousness to first incarnate into the spiritual template, and then that template allows us to be born or incarnated or embodied into a physical form or a metaphysical form. For instance, if you are incarnated on a water planet that's completely water, then your physical form will take the shape of the water.
Right.
If you are incarnated on a gaseous planet, it's our consciousness that travels, then your physical form, it's still incarnated in its metaphysical template, which we understand as the chakra systems, which are gateways of consciousness to allow our consciousness to come into a physical form or a metaphysical form. Then you would be incarnated in a gaseous form.
Right.
There are some dimensions that are very ethereal, so you incarnate into a more lighter, ethereal form.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And some people
I'm thinking back at some of my astral travels and how different I felt at different times.
Yes, in some incarnations I don't have legs.
Right.
That's really yes. I have a body, but I don't actually have 4 fingers. I actually have 3 fingers.
3.
My metaphysical form has 3 fingers. Yes, yes. It's a name for those angelic beings. They're just weird. Yes, and that's why your consciousness, your human head and your brain can go, hang on a minute, where's my body? Well, you're going and you're visiting another realm, another dimension, so your body will feel different. And in some cases, you don't actually have a body. And so it's nice if you can bring that knowledge into your human consciousness, and then you have an understanding of it. And I think we were speaking about, when we're talking to Rachel with her dream interpretation, we have this beautiful silver thread that connects us, and that's why we spring back and go like that so suddenly sometimes, so that we don't lose our connection with this earthly form. Yes. I remember I came back into my body so quickly one time. I had rolled over in my sleep, and I landed back in my body the wrong way around. It was hilarious because my boobs were on my back, and I had to lay in my body and take a moment and actually roll over inside my body, like roll over, and then line myself up again so I could wake my body up. I quite often land back in my body and I'll be going, oh, isn't she precious? Look, she's asleep. Oh, look, what's that noise? Oh, she's snoring. It's like you're conscious that your body is asleep. It's quite a bizarre feeling or experience.
Right.
So with Atlantis and with this particular planet, it's quite an extraordinary thing to be incarnated at this time, because we are present when an old plan has finished and a new plan has begun. So the old plan, it was planned that we would have 13 stages to the evolution of mankind's consciousness. And when they'd reached the 13th level, and that was predicted that it would approximately take around about, as mankind measures it, the 2,000-year mark. But I have to tell you that what you understand, what we understand is time. Right. Even we don't understand time here. Right. I will wake up some mornings and feel like 1,000 years has passed. The planet is much older than we can possibly conceive, and much more time has passed than we can possibly conceive. Even we have a perception of time, and the illusion of time was created so we could experience our own thoughts, and we could have a thought and watch it and monitor it and think about it, and evolve from it. Yeah. So
that's Earth.
Well, the Time Lords might think differently. I love the Time Lords, because you can do something, then all of a sudden, 8 hours has passed and you go, where did the 8 hours go?
Right.
Yeah, mastering time as a human being, they actually are masters to master time. I watch people and I think, oh gosh, you're so incredible. Then we can exist in the total now. We can exist sort of in a different zone. I do. I've never been able to wear a watch since my 20s. They would just stop, and I can't be bound by that time, which is really interesting. Yeah, I just know when it is the right time. So back to Atlantis and the plan. And now this plan, we would always meet and make a decision when more light would be, it would be time for mankind's consciousness to take a leap in their evolution. And it had to be a mass conscious decision for the majority, because you can't just take everybody along if some aren't ready to evolve. It has to be done in harmony. Yeah. And so when more light would be allowed to come into the planet, or more consciousness, because as you evolve, the universal life force dome has to be expanded to accommodate that expansion in your consciousness. So there's so much that the angelic realm do behind the scenes to assist us all to have these incredible experiences as human beings. So that particular plan was reached, the evolution. Oh, and this is why some of the pyramids, the Mayan and the Egyptian pyramids, their calendars finished at around the year 2000, because they didn't know exactly when mankind would reach that evolution, if that makes sense, even though it has already happened. I won't go into that. It was predicted that around about that time, so the actual plan had reached its 13th level of the evolution of mankind's consciousness. Now, I'll explain this too. The evolution of your consciousness and enlightenment are two separate things. So you can be a little pygmy in the rainforest and not have an evolved consciousness. You may not have an understanding of technology or quantum physics, but you can be an incredibly enlightened being. Right. You can understand the spirit and live in harmony with the trees, and that you can be enlightened. You can be both having an evolved consciousness and be enlightened, but just because your consciousness is evolved doesn't necessarily mean you're enlightened. And enlightened means the ability to hold more light.
Right.
Yeah. So we're talking about the evolution of mankind's consciousness, where they're able to conceive and have more expanded knowledge and not be frightened of things. Now science is so wonderful. It still has a lot to learn from spirit, but now scientific evidence can explain things so mankind can conceive things and go, oh wow, that's how that works. Oh wow, they capture the human aura on film and the pathways, so they now can quantify and scientifically measure all this beautiful, what we call phenomena, which we know is actually how it is.
Right.
So it's
right.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So within our consciousness was set a coding, and many people see the 1111. I know many people have talked about it, and it's a really simple thing. It was set within our coding, within our template, to remind us that we're constantly and ever evolving. So whenever you see the 1111, yes, you're evolving. Yes, you're constantly evolving, and your consciousness growing, expanding. Yeah, it's just a beautiful code. It has many other meanings too. You're always taken to your heart where it feels right for you. So after Atlantis, we started the journey, and we've come on this incredible journey of evolution. About 2011, September, the planet actually finished. However, because mankind measures things in times and events and alignments and planets, they love to celebrate, which is absolutely perfect. And so they love to have a date or a celebration, like a party to acknowledge it. So they picked the 12/12 for that part of the physical acknowledgement. Now, we did sit in council, and a new plan, a new council was put together for the new plan for this planet. Now, I did have a chat with the council members, and I did ask for them to please bring more feminine representation. Because the old council were very masculine. We had one feminine representation. So we did ask, and 3 beautiful goddess or feminine beings were brought through to sit on the new council. So there's now 4, which is lovely. It's a much nicer balance. Is to assist with the next stage of mankind's evolution. The next plan involves 7 stages of the evolution of mankind's consciousness, and they wish to expand and go cosmic and galactic, as well as combining technology with natural things. They wish to have a natural planet, meaning all organics, and farming and going back to nature, but at the same time they wish to combine the technical with it, which is going to be fascinating evolution to see how that goes. The one thing that we all agreed upon was for mankind to take the next quantum leap, they really do need to perhaps clean up what's been done first to leave a nice legacy for future generations, if that makes sense, to clean up some of the things first for the next evolution in their consciousness and experiences that they're going to have. So it's at a very, very experimentation stage, and there's a lot of old energy that isn't quite ready to just let go yet. The mass consciousness made the decision, but there's still pockets of energy that don't wish to make that quantum leap and bring in more light and have a higher consciousness, they're sort of hanging on a little bit. I won't bring that energy here, but they're doing it in a different way. They're also using the internet and media to spread a lower vibration. And it's like anything, you have free will and you can choose not to participate and not to be scared by that, and use sense and sensibility and understand it for what it is. So there's a lot of people that are moving around the planet at the moment. A lot of people are leaving, of course, because they've witnessed and experienced so much. Yes. But there's a transition stage. There's always a transition stage when an old plan finishes and a new plan begins. Many of us are all ready to rock and roll on the new plan, but there has to be a transition and a processing before that will start. And that could possibly take what mankind understands is it could take many decades for the new plan to really, it's only in preliminary stages at the moment, if that makes sense. Of course, those that are very enlightened and those that are the pioneers and the light way showers, they're already on the plan. They're setting the path for the future generations to follow. They're leaving beautiful legacies behind.
Right. So beautiful children coming in now. You can see, you know, as we break the chains of habits, you know, they're going to be, they're already set up and ready to take their places.
Absolutely. The masters that are coming in, I had many amazing parents that would come into my little shop, and their children were not, many of them homeschooled their children because they understood, they were very, very enlightened parents, and they understood, they knew their children's spirits, and so they would be off the grid. Just a delight to meet them. And then there would be many parents who would come in who were very grounded and had children who were very, very enlightened, and they just needed a little bit of guidance sometimes of how to deal with their child. The Rudolf Steiner system is a lovely system for children who may not fit into mainstream. Some of these children, super sensitive, don't fit into the mainstream. Their energies are a little bit too dense for them, and they're very psychic, the children that are coming in. So, yes, people can look at homeschooling until their children have built up their energies and able to handle all the stimuli that comes in. Yes, it's a fascinating time to be incarnated and see the transition from one plane to another. I mean, we've been waiting eons for this quantum leap, but there's always work to be done. Yes, very interesting times. So, but the children are so precious. They are just amazing. The next generations ahead of us will, what they'll bring to the planet, their consciousness, they have such higher knowledge, and they're also pioneers, as I said. It will take a few decades and a few generations. But it's just wonderful. I think that we're so blessed now to have the internet, that because we communicate telepathically very easily, but to have the internet now to bring this information to people that normally wouldn't have access to this knowledge. Right. It's just wonderful. It's very Atlantean. As I said, I'm so used to working with Atlantean technology. I try and think, well, why doesn't my computer know what I want it to do? But that's okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. Yeah.
That's probably why this younger generation can pick up computers just right away. I mean, they have no problem.
They're born into it, yes, absolutely. They're born into it. They're just extraordinary. And the way that they communicate, there's a whole new language being developed, a text language, and very visual with icons. So it's an emotional language. Yeah, it's fascinating. But It's wonderful to be a grandmother too. This is the first time I've ever been a grandmother in this dimension ever. I'm very rarely ever married when I incarnated in a body. To even be a mother, wow, that was incredible. But to actually be a grandmother in this life is amazing. I'm not quite sure what to do with these little beings, but I'll be a purple brandy for them. They'll always remember their visits to Grandma's house. I'm sure your grandchildren remember their visits to their gorgeous grandma. Yeah. Do you have any questions about that? About Atlantis and that?
Well, what I was wondering earlier today was what was going on in Inner Earth while Atlantia was so alive and functional.
Which Inner Earth?
Like Argarthia.
Okay, right. Okay, I can speak about this. At that time, there was a beautiful being, a feminine being. Many people think it was a continent. It may have been, but the being that I know as Lumeria, the goddess Lumeria, or goddess energy, was very, very present, setting up nurturing things. Now, when you say Inner Earth, look out here, there were beings that were created that are actually part of this earth. And that, as far as I know, was being set up while Atlantis was being set up, because this is a living planet. And there were certain things that needed to be set up. There are crystalline structures within the planet, because when the Arcturians assist us in terraforming a planet, or even creating the solar system, and between each solar system there is a bubble and there's a gap, so that the resonations of the solar systems don't disrupt each other. I know that Lemuria was here. She was extraordinary, setting things up for the future. And the Inner Earth, the beings that are here that belong to the Earth, and some of them incarnate, and now they're different. When they cross, they don't go back into the soul pool, they're part of the Earth. Some indigenous tribes are part of the Earth. Does that make sense?
It is making sense.
What is your take, Sheila? What were you doing at that time?
I have not discovered that yet.
Oh, we'll have to have another chat offline. Yeah.
It's probably where it's from.
I'll show our beautiful listeners. Look at our glass. Now, I'm in Australia. I have no idea. But I need my glass of water, and Sheila has exactly the same synchronicity, the same glass. I love it. I know we're going off track, but it's beautiful. So I love my time in Atlantis, and then the beings that I work with, of course, I always work with the different Atlantises, and as I said, they're the Council of Seven, and I work with the Divine Law. I know your beautiful spirit, because of your experience at vigorously incarnating, not just in this dimension, but in many dimensions. You're a very wise ancient being, and you could offer advice at the Atlantis for this dimension based on the other Atlantises that we were at. We didn't all travel to all of the Atlantises and all the realms. Some of us travelled by different paths. Yes. And this is why some of us have got so many different memories of Atlantis. There's some Atlantises where they feel that perhaps something inappropriate was done, and there's crystalline Atlantises that they experimented with, and with crystalline technology. There are so many planes of existence. I think the most important thing is not to be frightened to look inside yourself and to explore and to see what you've learned from these experiences.
Yes.
Always be gentle and kind with yourself, because first and foremost, you are an eternal, spiritual, divine being. You're created from the light. You are created from love. You are love at the core. And don't be frightened to go in and find that love that you are. And no matter what you see or what you've experienced or who you've been, you've grown and evolved from every experience. I have an extraordinary colleague who has memories, horrendous memories of some of the things that she has experienced and been and done. And this life, she's the most beautiful human being. And with a little bit of help and holding her hand, we took her on a journey, and she was able to have a look at it. She's gone, oh my God, I know what I've done, I know who I've been, I know. And instead of being ashamed of it or scared of it, she was able to embrace herself and go, wow, okay, what have I learned from it? As I say, yes, just don't be frightened to look within.
Yeah, there was a phase where it was the first time that I spent time by myself. I had had a home where I took care of people. We had like 13 people in the home at one point, and then it was my turn, and it after 2 weeks of spending time by myself, no technology, no nothing, I started experiencing my past lives.
Wow.
And what was so amazing about that is that they were quite terrible. I mean, they were tragic, okay, but reliving them again, although the pain was not unbearable. Okay.
There was emotional memory of that loss.
Yes. And it was like for I don't know, several weeks, every time I fell asleep, I would experience another one of them, and boy, I tell you, my body was going through, I was sweating, I was hot, it was amazing. And then out of the blue, a friend had mailed me this little tiny piece of paper that said something in the way of, we are all of who you've been, and we are here to gather with you and continue this journey with you. So I had embraced the all of me's, and as tragic as they were, and I don't even want to repeat because they're just tragic, but I'm alive. I lived. I survived.
You are. You're eternal. These are memories or pieces of your emotional being. Was it because, bear in mind, when we come to this dimension with the evolved consciousness that we have, and we are walking amongst our brothers and sisters, there's something the angels explained to me. They said that some of us are granted consciousness when we're created. We're aware of it, and we earn it and then some of us learn consciousness. So when we come here and we start incarnation, they're learning it, whereas we have it. And so when we come here with what we know, if you think of our younger brothers and sisters as being more primitive and not having the understanding that we have, and through their fear and ignorance, they sometimes did horrendous things to us. But right. I've always known I'm eternal. I already, that this is just a vessel that I travel in when I come here and have this experience. So we did put our hand up to come, knowing that we could possibly have all these horrid things happen to us. But at the same time, that was to our physical vessel that we travelled in. It did carry emotional memory. But the angels always explained to me, and Samantha, when I would ask questions, they were all issued earmuffs, by the way, because I asked so many questions. Sorry, it has to come back now. I shouldn't have sidetracked. It's completely gone. It will come back to me. I do apologise.
That's all right. That's all right. That happens. Well, listen. Okay, so now for
so I remember.
Okay, go ahead.
They said that we had to learn about the past so we would understand the future. And one of the things that I have the joy of doing is I go into the angelic books of life, and it's not the Akashic records. And what I do is I have a look at your records for you, and I can tell you what part of the divine plan you were. And I know that you were coming constantly to anchor in light and knowledge, and you were also the caretaker of children, and you set seeds for future generations. But there were very special children, so you came in as an earth mother always, and even though they did horrendous things to you, yes, I'd love to do some work with you if you I don't think you need to, because I think you've done the work. But yes, you were definitely came in service as part of the divine plan for the greater good. And you always have. You always come in service. Yes. Yes. Thank you for that, by the way. Thank you for that. Thank you for letting me speak. I'm sorry I cut you off. Yeah, you were saying.
That's all right. Well, okay, so now, in the times we are in now, okay?
Yes.
We are bringing those ways of Atlantis back. Is that correct?
I suppose in mankind's way of understanding, we're saying back, but we have been, because the consciousness of mankind is evolving, they're now able to understand the higher technologies, the divine. So, yes, I suppose that's a good way of saying bringing it back, but to me we're making quantum leaps to go forward.
Right. Right.
So it's a way that I understand what you're saying. It's probably my words. To me, we're not going backwards, we're going forward.
We're going forward. We're coming back into it. We're coming, how would you say?
We're evolving to a higher level of consciousness so that we can anchor in this understanding. You and I already know it. The brothers and sisters on the planet have been evolving and growing to that so that they can now understand it. We already know it. We already are it.
We are anchoring it. That's what I've been saying, that every time we do a show and we reveal our gifts and our abilities and what we know, we are anchoring in this foundation for this new earth, and this is what we do here.
Yes, it is. We always have come to this dimension depending on the age of mankind and where they were at in their evolution, if that makes sense. I've always felt incredibly blessed to be here, and I've always felt like I'm in this world looking into this world. I've always been in this world, but not necessarily of it. And
But there is something very special about having a human form in this evolution. I mean, that's so extreme, and I think, it has been impressed upon me that we are just looked upon as, doing one of the most grandest things ever in the universe by evolving into this human body. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing if you can remember.
It is a very cool thing. And always explained to me that just by being born in this dimension, every soul fulfills their divine purpose just by being born. It's an amazing thing. We don't give birth the same way in other dimensions to just breathe air. Every breath is absolutely a miracle. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes. Just be kind and be authentic and be real, and don't be embarrassed about the things that you've experienced. Stop and ask yourself, what did I learn from that? How have I grown? What have I learned about myself? What have I learned about other people? Pretty amazing.
Yes.
The kids, I'm learning so much about how amazing mothers are. And yes, we drive our children crazy.
Okay, so yours is watching.
I hope so. And they drive me crazy too.
Oh, yeah. It's
They really teach you about unconditional love. Yeah. And, I just have to remember that on some level that they did choose me as a mother before they were born.
Remind them.
Yes, occasionally. Yeah. Because they too are divine beings that have chosen to come here, as you all are. Yes. Right. Yeah.
Well,
any other questions? Yeah. Because
I don't think I have any other questions right now. And as soon as you said this morning that we're going to be talking about Atlantis, I was like, well, I knew that. And
we're already talking spirit. I love that. You and I have a chat in spirit.
We let Rachel know about 10 minutes before the show what we're going to talk about. So
because we have no idea, we're being completely guided.
That's right.
Here. They did ask me to mention that I actually do readings for people. There's lots of things that I do, and of course, they're very, very welcome to send me a message through Facebook or Rachel was so beautiful, and she created a little website for me called Angel's House Online, where all the videos are being stored. But I do many, many things, and I do teach students via Skype. I have some international students, and we have so much fun. So I do lots of things if anyone would be interested. I always say, how best can I serve? I have no idea sometimes what it is a person needs, and when we have a chat, we find out. So there's lots of things that we do. And I know you do some amazing things as well. And I want to thank you both so much for facilitating this platform for all of us.
Yes,
it's just
indeed. Yes, Rachel, can you come on? Can you come on for a minute? Rachel has, in the last month, she has made so many changes to our show. She is keeping us up with all the latest.
She's educated and it's fantastic.
I know. Trying to make it so that people can access us and intervene with the show. We're getting a live thing set up where people can come in and be on the show with us and talk with us. And I thought it would be great to get like you and me and Delia and Paula. Great to get all of us on.
I clicked a few things to show you. It's hard to do it when we're doing a live show to click the spots to show you how to do it, but we actually have a way now of sharing where a guest can come right on the video as they're doing it without having to sign up for Skype and everything, so it's kind of cool that way.
And Rachel told me, and I'd like to share this with all the listeners and viewers, that because I'm an older generation, I talk in using a language that is probably out of date, and I say archives. And Rachel's taught me the latest spiel, and it's apparently, when you want to look at a previously recorded show, it's called On Demand. So that's the up-to-date way to say it. So it's you can have a look at the on-demand videos that are stored, and we're keeping the videos and just trying to label them. So if people want to go in and look at a particular subject, they can go back and perhaps have a look at that. A lot of my friends have been saving them and watching them when they can, and they've given me some lovely responses. They're really enjoying the shows.
Oh, we have RSS feeds you can sign up for and actually subscribe to the shows. They'll come to your computer and you can watch them at your leisure. Also, we have now we're on TuneIn. We're on TuneIn. We're on how come I'm getting so nervous? iTunes. We're on iTunes. You go to iTunes stores and you can actually get every show. You can get them all or get them one at a time for absolutely free. You just go to iTunes store and there they are. So we're really moving around, and we're on iHeartRadio. Yeah. Plus we're on New Earth International. It's going in Women's Radio today. So we're getting out there. Some new shows are coming on too. Other sisters are coming in and doing some fun things.
Gorgeous. I've been speaking to some brothers and sisters here and telling them about you, Sheila and Rachel, and that hopefully in the future I can introduce you. They're just a little bit shy at the moment, but I'm telling them, you go and talk with Rachel. You share what you do with Sheila,
Yeah, we'll help. Just give him a crystal or something so he can translate. We'll be in good shape.
Rachel's making fun of me because I'm so sensitive. It's all right, Rachel. I have my meteorite.
It's like a firewall. It's their own version of a firewall. It's Atlantis version firewall. We don't want too much energy come through too quick, so we're just for the firewall.
It's a translator, so that my energy frequencies don't. My energy is very ethereal. It's a very different type of vibration, and it can be catalytic with people. And if I'm working with a lot of technology, the language of the technology is just different, and this can happen. This is actually a good thing to let people know. You can meet another being who can be a totally different frequency to you, and it can make you feel extraordinarily uncomfortable. And you might not know why. You might think, oh, I don't like that being. But there may be absolutely nothing wrong with that being. That being is just being that being. And so crystalline technology is wonderful to create buffer zones so that you can translate their frequency, which might be...
Speaking of beings, the animals in the other room are going crazy.
Sorry about that. That was a technological language of frequencies out there in the cosmos. Yeah. So these sorry about that, animals. That would have hurt their ears possibly. Dolphins just got the most gorgeous vibration. But it's crystalline technology, and sometimes when you're dealing with these beautiful beings that come to the planet, they feel very uncomfortable. Sometimes a meteorite might help them adjust to the Earth frequencies. So as I said, crystalline technology is natural to me, and I love working with those frequencies, but they are wonderful tools, so they help. So I now have my meteorite in my computer.
Well, last week we had a lovely guest, or she had a lovely guest. I really enjoyed her, talking about the light language and different things. And we're talking about letting your freak flag fly, but now we're letting your frequency flag fly. So I'm just going to be out there in my own little frequency and just keep it rock with your handy and you're good shape.
Oh, honey, you do such an amazing job. Thank you. Oh, my God.
This has been a wonderful show, and I thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.
We will.
And we'll see what Rachel comes up with next to keep us universally in tune with everybody.
Oh, it's overwhelming, but thank you, Rachel. I'm in just such deep gratitude, and you did such a beautiful job on my little online Angel Essence House online to store the videos. Thank you so much. I'm so
beautiful,
grateful.
And we're always updating and keeping things current.
Yeah, thank you to all the listeners and all the viewers, and I hope that with my heart of hearts that you've enjoyed this. And don't hesitate to write in if you have any questions. or you would like maybe a small online reading. Sheila and I were talking about that if you want a small mini online reading, or what you could do is you could write your question in and we could answer it online for you. So have a wonderful day and bless you all. Thank you for coming to Boot Camp Earth.
That's right. That is right. All right. Well, from my heart to yours, peeps. Namaste.
Namaste. Okay.